Okay, so we'll start with the Navkar mantra. Om Namo Arihantanam. Om Namo Siddhanam. Om Namo Ayariyanam. Om Namo Vajayanam. Namo Loe Savasahunam. Eso Panchanamo Karo. Sarva Pavapanasano. Mangalancha Sarvesim. Paramam Havai Mangalam. Paramam Havai Mangalam. So today's topic is a repeat of mindfulness. So if there's any topic to repeat, then this is the one. Was anybody here for our first class on mindfulness? Or was everybody came after?
Yes, I guess I was there, yes, for mindfulness.
Okay.
I was there.
So great. So if you were here for the first class on mindfulness, then how have you incorporated it into your life, and has it changed anything about your life? Hey, come on in. So we're talking about mindfulness today.
Okay.
And then, has anybody, since the time we talked about it last, has anybody tried it out in their life to any good or ill effect?
Well, for me, I try to be mindful of
Uh-huh.
when I yell at the kids mostly.
Right, yeah. That's
Every
a good
time
time
I
to
do
be
it,
mindful, yeah.
So
That's a good time.
I try to be mindful at my work because we have different characters. Means each personality will have their own way of handling situation, right? So maybe good or bad at that situation, but I try to see that from positive angle and not say sometimes, because sometimes you try to explain yourself, so I stop myself. So I try to be mindful, but explicitly I'll be honest. I never tried to be mindful.
Sure.
But
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's always very hard to do this, and of course, we all want honesty from everybody. We all have things we're all at different places on the path. Does anybody know what the definition of mindfulness is? What is it when we say, well, we tried to be mindful? What are we saying?
We are consciously trying not to get into a situation where you're getting angry or basically trying to control your emotions.
Right.
And because situations will always come, be it car driving or you see people driving very rashly and then you
Right.
get that irritation or so in those situations trying to control your emotions and be normal.
Right.
Not being on the extreme sides, either being very angry or even on the other side being very happy, I think would be termed as being mindful.
Right. And so, kind of the broader definition is that mindfulness is being aware of your thoughts. Now, I know what you're saying. Dimmer, I'm aware of my thoughts all the time. I'm aware I'm thinking all the time. So, does that mean I'm always mindful? No. In fact, we're almost never aware of our thoughts. We're almost never aware that we're thinking. Because we do it so often, we do it 24 hours a day, basically, including while you sleep. The best kind of analogy I can give you is breathing. You're only aware of your breathing when you take control of it. Or when somebody says, hey, you're breathing, and reminds you to breathe. That's the only time you're aware that you're breathing. Similarly, the only time you're aware that you're thinking is when somebody tells you about what you're thinking, or when you purposefully try to take over your thinking. And what that means is we're almost mindful. We're mindful almost never, because you almost never think about your breath, and that's why it's so hard at the beginning, because hey, come on in. Today we're talking about mindfulness. And if there's any class to repeat, then it's this one, because we would all need a refresher now and again. And so the best analogy, mindfulness is being aware of your thoughts. And a lot of times we are not aware of our thoughts. And the best analogy I can liken it to is breathing. You're only aware you're breathing when you take control over your breathing or when someone reminds you that you're breathing. You're not aware, you're thinking so often and throughout your whole life that you're not really aware that you're thinking. And you're not aware about metacognition of what your thoughts about. And so I have a confession to make to you guys. Is that, my confession is that I'm starting to believe in mantras. That mantras work. Okay, and mantras don't work because of karma, and mantras don't work because of magic. Okay, mantras work because of mindfulness. So I'll give you an example. If every morning you wake up and you say, in 1 year, I'm going to be a millionaire. And you say that out loud to yourself 5 times. Okay, I'm starting to believe that will work. You know why? It's because you remind yourself of your mission, of your priorities. And you remind yourself every day. And the reason it works is because you remind yourself, you will make decisions according to that mantra. Which means at the end of the day, when it's time to go home and see your family, when you have a choice to make, you can go home and see your family, or you can go to the networking event. You'll go to the networking event because you reminded yourself of your mantra that morning. And it means when you're looking at a risk versus reward and you tend to think, no, I don't want to do this, it's too risky, you'll have reminded yourself that morning that you wanted to be a millionaire. And you will take the risk. You will say, no, if I want to do this, I'm going to take the risk. And so you will get. And so mantras work. If your mantra in the morning is, I'm going to lose 10 pounds in 5 months, and you tell that to yourself out loud 5 times a day, every morning, you will do it. And not because of magic, and not because of karma, and it's because when you decide you would normally take a second dessert, you will have reminded yourself, you will have brought that to the forefront that morning. And you're like, oh no, that's not in line with my goals. And it's when you decide that, I'm going to have the salad or instead of the lasagna at lunch, you will remember because you told yourself that morning. And you will choose the salad over the lasagna because you will say, oh yeah, I reminded myself, that's it, that's in line with my goals. That's all mindfulness is, right? Is constantly reminding yourself of the bigger picture, of the meta direction of your thoughts. And so it's important that you say your mantra rather than think it. Okay, if you're sitting down in the morning and you say a prayer, it's important that you say it out loud. Because when you say it out loud, you hear yourself say it. And it reinforces it. Because there's something different in hearing something and thinking something, right? So it goes through a different pathway in the brain and it reinforces it. So that's why, and it's also important to do it in the morning. Because if you do it at night, then you go to sleep and you forget about it and your decisions don't comport with your mantra, right? So questions or comments on that? So I think that mantras work, and I think that they can work for you.
So my question for you is, you started out saying that you have a confession to make.
Yeah.
Why is it a confession? Why is it not a positive?
It's a convention. It's a confession because it sounds ridiculous. It sounds ridiculous that if I were just tell you in the abstract that if you say, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire in a year, and you just keep saying it to yourself, it sounds ridiculous that people would think that that would be true. But when I tell you that your decisions will comport with your mantra, then it sounds a little less ridiculous.
I mean, yes and no. Understand? I'm sifting through the educated and somewhat better minds compared to the other folks who are psychologically challenged. But it's true, especially just a few snippets that I've read from about Elon Musk. I mean, obviously we have seen what has happened in the past couple of months, but he has a pretty good story to tell as well, just about his thoughts and what he wanted to achieve. And obviously other autobiographies of other such successful folks.
Mhm.
So it works.
Right.
And this is many years ago when I first came to this country. I got into that. I forget what it's even called. It's like that shopping thing, the pyramid, and many desis got into it. And Amway. Thank you.
Right.
And I mean, I learned something out of it, although I still don't quite believe into it because for whatever reasons, that's my story. But there they also reinforce these kind of things, like you talk it out loud, you write it,
Right.
that you'll be successful, and you attended workshops where folks who were successful talked about those kind of things, and
Mhm.
that that how that allowed them that even from a student's perspective while studying parallelly you could do these kind of things.
Mhm.
When you say out loud and you write it down and put it in front of you, at the end you start believing in yourself and start
Yes,
believing in those
reinforcement,
positive.
yeah.
So I agree, Miss. But one question then, saying out loud and talking to just with me, let's say morning I wake up and I say, Miss Namo Rentaro, or I
Mhm.
just,
Right.
but in my mind only, Miss, I don't talk out loud. So
Right.
what's the difference?
I would suggest to you it's better to do it out loud, including your prayers in the morning. Because when you say something out loud, you add a level of reality to it, a further level of reality to it than just thinking about things. Thinking about things is real, but we'll say on the left end of the unreal spectrum. Saying it out loud is a little more real. Doing an action is the best. It's even more real. So because you access different senses and you make it more real to yourself, I would suggest doing prayers and mantra out loud rather than in your mind.
Well, when you actually introduced the topic as a mantra, when you said mantra, I perceived initially as like Nokar mantra or
Right.
all the mantras.
Right.
And one thing in India, we have always, my wife and I always talk about that India, we learned all the sutras
Mm-hmm.
and in Jainism, and not as much about why and what. I mean, it was just do the sutra and that's fine.
Right.
And obviously, until this point, we were always debating whether we should do either mantra or the sutras, or should we focus kids on learning why and what sutra means.
Mm-hmm.
I know combination is important, but as you said, I think it makes a lot of sense that when you say out loud even Naukar mantra, whether you are consciously know it or not, it becomes your goal, it becomes your ambition, it kind of ingrains in everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think also saying out loud also helps create the vibes around you, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that you mentioned, and I thought confession also, I was thinking of more stem from my thinking, it was mainly whether we believe in doing the sutras or not.
Right.
We just believed in the knowledge base. So it's interesting way to look at it, that even if we recite the sutra, you are trying to whichever sutra is, you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to either do it or believe it in, or whether it's becoming one day in one life, something like that. It's a good way to think about, and
Right.
reconvince yourself to doing the sutra is important as well.
Sure. I'll tell you what I think about it. I think that learning the words without knowing the meaning is beneficial, but very trivially as to be almost insignificant. The beneficial part is that, well, we're not doing, we're doing samvar, and we're doing limited amounts of nirjara. That is, we're not doing other things that are worse that we could be doing, right?
Correct.
We're not doing violence,
Yeah.
we're not doing that. And so that's okay, that's great. But when you understand the words and the meaning, that reminds you of what what the lesson of the sutra is, right? It's like learning this logasa, right? It's great that our kids memorize it and it's the names of all the tirthankars, right?
Right.
But if the purpose of reciting it is to get you to remember what each one of those tirthankars represents and what happened in his life and how you want to emulate that, just knowing the names is the whole purpose of it is to remind you and to get you in that headspace about learning the lessons of their life. So if they don't know about those tirthankars, then what good is just reciting the names? Well, the only good it is they're not doing something worse, like, playing video games or whatever, So I think that the combination is good. And yeah, it's great to get them to memorize it, especially in order to do things, but we want to get at the meaning behind it. It was funny. I think a long time ago, some Jainish uncle asked, when do you recite the Naukar mantra? Is it in the morning? Is it when you travel? Or is it when you get in the car? And different people recite it at different times. And he said, what do you think when you recite it? And people think like, I'm asking for something, or I want this. And one of the last answers was, I think about what the words mean. Like, why is that the last answer that people say when you think about, what do you think about when you recite the Naukar mantra? You're supposed to think about, I bow down to the Aryahants, and who are the Aryahants? And I bow down to the Siddhas, and who are the Siddhas? And I bow down to the Upadhyas. And you're supposed to think about what you're saying, right? So why do we think about other things, right? That's not being mindful. So I think that we should be thinking about what we're saying when we recite these things.
On the other hand, just a comment, one can also think about as for kids learning the names of the Arihantas and the Tirthankars, it's always a start, because
right.
As we have, at least I have realized, it's a journey. And you're constantly learning, whether it's religion or something else, and I don't know if I'm going to attain nirvana or not, but at least I know and I learn about, like when I was young, I didn't even know anything about that as much as what I have known in the past few years.
Right.
Yeah. So
I was going to make just a quick comment. Not all mantras have the same meaning either.
Mm-hmm.
For me, sometimes different mantras may put you in a state of familiarity and a state of calmness and peace.
Mm-hmm.
And the mantra could be just one word.
Right.
And it doesn't have to have an outlined meaning behind it. And so often, for me personally, I use mantras to calm me down. So
Mm-hmm.
in states of stress,
Mm-hmm.
I use mantras to kind of put me in a peaceful state.
Right.
And another just quick comment, my college roommate, when we came in the very first day of freshman year in college, he had a list of goals that he put in that he wanted to achieve at the end of college. He had like 5 or something. And so all of us would make fun of him, like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like a college freshman putting up your list of like goals right at the beginning. And he ended up achieving pretty much all of them.
Right.
One of them was, I want to be a stout Republican. That was one.
Uh-huh.
He ended up going pretty far in it. And another one was, to work for Apple. He had written like really high, lofty goals, and
Right.
he hit all of them. And I think it was the mantra concept, right?
Yeah.
Looking at it, seeing that was my goal.
Yeah.
And throughout all 4 years, everything he did was to align his decision making based on that. So,
Right. Right. And the important thing is that we all have to have a goal. Otherwise, we don't know what direction we're moving in, and we can't focus our actions and our thoughts to move in a particular direction. And here's the catch, though. You have to have a mission, but that mission can't be women and it can't be money. Okay? Because these are the byproducts of your mission. Okay? If you make your mission women, then you put women on a pedestal. And we all know what happens when you put people on a pedestal. They look down on you, right? And then the relationship is over. Okay? So your goal can't be women. Okay? And your goal can't be money, because that's just begging the question of, well, how do I get money, right? Well, okay, now you have the same question, right? So it can't be women and it can't be money. So you have to figure out what your goal is. And I'm telling you, sometimes that is the hardest part. Trying to figure out what you want to do and what you want out of your life. I'm telling you right now, if you don't have a goal, then someone will put their goal on you. Okay? And you will be working towards their goal, right? Just like if you don't have a direction you want to take your career, then you'll just do what the company says, and you'll just do what the boss says, and you're hoping that the outcome will be all right. Okay? Then you're not going to branch out and talk to this person because you want to work in this department, or you're not going to hit yourself to a star in the company, right? Because you're just hoping it will be all right. You do not have a goal. Now, you take that lesson and you apply it to your whole life. Okay? If you don't have a goal for your life, then other people are using you to achieve their goals. Okay? Entertainment companies are using you to achieve their goals. Okay? Your relationships, those people are using you to attain their goals, and you're not getting anything in return.
Your kids.
Yeah, exactly. Your kids, because we all know kids, right? They take and take and take, and you have to set boundaries, right? So your kids are using you for their goals, and you're not working towards your own goals. And I'll tell you something. Here's a conspiracy theory that's actually true. Okay, there really is a war for your thoughts and your attention going on right now. There is a war, and people are spending lots of money on it. And the only evidence you need is you look at some tech company like Facebook, okay? Does everybody remember when you had Facebook and you would look through your feed and then it would end and you'd be done, right? You'd be done, right? You look for 10 minutes, okay? And then you'd scroll and it would stop, right? And then Facebook said, well, people are not using our site enough. We want them to, now people are using 46 minutes a day. Before it was 20 minutes a day. What do we do? Well, we just keep scrolling, okay? There's always news, there's always updates. You keep scrolling. They introduced infinite scrolling, right? Now you're never done, okay? So now Facebook is using you for its goals, and it's getting your attention, and it's winning the war, okay? Right now there's so much pressure for and everybody knows, everybody calls it money, right? Everybody's like, oh yeah, Timur, you're not saying anything new. I know everybody wants my money and everybody wants me to spend on their product. No, everybody wants your mind share. And if you don't control your mind, then somebody else is controlling it for you. And so that's why it's important to have a goal. Because once you have a goal, you can focus your mind and you can start controlling your mind. And that's what mindfulness is. Okay, it's controlling your mind. We have a handbook on how to take care of your body. We know how to take care of your body. Now, I thought that the purpose of school was to know how to take care of your mind, but it's not. It's to fill your head with information. But that doesn't teach you how to think, does it? Did anybody ever taken a class, how to think? They call it philosophy, right? Or whatever, right? Anybody taking it? No, nobody's taking it, right?
Well, one thing is pretty big in industry nowadays is emotional intelligence.
Right.
And now, I don't think they're specifically talking about that it's trying to control your mind, but it's part of it's that, how to behave, how to do things when you're under stress, because of all the other reasons that your mind is so preoccupied.
Right.
But I think it's in last at least 2-3 years, we have heard a lot more about emotional intelligence and how it's important for leaders or managers.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also a kind of a more broader concept is what they call emotional hygiene, right?
Yeah.
We know how to take care of our bodies, how to clean our body. Nobody has ever told us how to clean our mind. Everybody just assumes that your mind works properly. And then if it doesn't work properly, then we say, take these drugs or whatever, or practice meditation or whatever. But why would that be the case? Okay? Do we all have kids, right? Do they know how to do anything properly? No, so why would we assume they know how to think properly? Right? And there is a proper way to think and there is a not proper way to think, right? The proper way to think is to think about what you want to think about, not to think about what other people tell you to think about, right? And I'll give you a good tip, is that this information addiction is real, right? So this addiction to your phone and addiction to the internet is real. One way to help you is, there's a couple ways. There's some blockers. You can block websites on certain browsers. If you don't know, there's extensions you can install that just won't let you access certain sites, right? You can turn your browser and your phone into black and white mode. It sounds really silly, okay, but it helps.
No, I tried that.
You tried it?
Yes, on the phone,
Yeah.
nowadays there is a feature.
Yeah.
So after certain time, I change my screen to black and white, and naturally
Yeah.
I look at it for 5 minutes and I get bored because so it works.
Yeah.
Then other one more thing to do is there are now in Apple and Android phones there is a feature to limit time for each app. So for
Right.
Facebook, I have aside 45 minutes for a particular day and it says
Yeah.
your time is up, you cannot, and I then consciously follow that. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's it. That's done for the day, and I will not increase. So
You know what? That's mindfulness on your phone. Your phone is reminding you
yes,
of the right
that's
thing
the
to
only
do,
thing
right?
I am
Exactly.
surrendering myself to.
No, that's great. I think it's great. I think it's great because it sounds silly, but think about it like this, okay? Have you ever seen a black and white program on television?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, it's kind of old and it looks kind of not great, and it could be great. Like it could be a great movie, like Casablanca or whatever, one of the best movies ever, right? But it's like it's not that great, you know. You look at it and you're like, oh, this sucks or whatever, you know. That's the same thing when if you try to browse a regular site, let's say you're on CNN or whatever, and you turn it into black and white, your mind will just start going, this sucks, you know. Why am I doing this? Try it one time and it will work, I guarantee you, because your phone is very colorful and not many things in nature are colorful, right? And so it's designed to attract your attention. And listen, I'm not a technology like Luddite or whatever. The phone is one of the most amazing inventions, right? Because, and the reason that people don't talk to other people and look at their phone is because, well, your friends are on your phone, you're still being social on your phone, your banking's on your phone, you can check different things on your phone. It's a very powerful tool. You can customize it the way you want, right? The information that you see, you can customize. It's a very powerful tool, right? But you have to make sure your phone is working for you and you're not working for your phone, right? That your phone comports with your goals, okay? That because it's so distracting, and the first thing to do that is to take control of your notifications, okay? And use do not disturb features and go through the deep menus and decide which apps can send you notifications. You don't need Taco Bell sending you notifications about anything, okay? So just turn it off, and if you don't want to do all that, just turn all of it off, okay? And then be like, hey, I didn't see that banking thing. Oh yeah, I turned off all my notifications. Let me turn on the bank ones, okay? And decide to do that. And purposefully decide to make your phone work for you, okay?
So that's homework for this week.
Yeah, that go into your. You know what I do? I put my kids to sleep, right? And they take forever to go to sleep. So then I'm like trying to figure out my phone while they're going to sleep, you know, and I'm in the same room. So try and figure out when you can do that and how that will work for you.
One thing I'd like to add, I just heard a presentation on, there's a book now called Breaking Away from Your Phone.
Yeah.
And that book recommends, and it tells you what happens is, like Facebook or WhatsApp, you make an instantaneous decision.
Right.
Like you just take a phone and you're not even thinking about it and you just click on it.
Right.
And then you start scrolling.
Right.
They have an app called Space. So what this Space does, it introduces a delay and gives you a second chance
That's
to
great.
think about it. Because most likely, if you think second time, you will probably won't go there.
Right.
Or you think about it, do I really need to do it, or do I really want to do it? And basically, this book that I haven't read it yet, he recommended. It talks about what neuroscience tells to you, and you get a good hormones for a few seconds, and then you produce good hormones and not, and so on and so forth. So it's basically the same thing. It's very hard for us to do. It's an instantaneous decision that we make, and then kind of overall, like you said, if we end up, we don't think about it. It's going to take us 45 minutes in a day, but sometimes we spend hours without
Right.
even knowing.
Right.
And it's not a conscious decision. So if as we are trying this app, I haven't tried that yet. It's called Space, and I can send you all the email. He sent us on the name of the book and this app.
Right.
Just to add, we also don't realize that we are taking away some quality time that is supposed to be with family, for example.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially when you are back from work, say at 5:30 or 6 or whatever time you go back. What I've started doing recently or last few months is I keep the phone away. Meaning I don't keep it anywhere in the reach where I can go and again, check either my emails, which is a very bad habit. So
Right.
now I've tried to remove notifications for all my Outlook mails. That goes into snooze, meaning when I'm at home, I don't get any notifications of any email. So I only check when I know that I have, my kids have settled, or the other thing I do is I generally either keep it on silent. I know it can be bad because if somebody's trying to reach you, but then I think, who in the world is
Right.
going to reach me, and if it is that urgent, they'll call on my wife's phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they'll call on the landline, right?
Right.
So maybe I can, that is sometimes I'm keeping it on and off, but mostly I keep it in charging, and I keep the charger far away, meaning the place where I don't go. So that helps actually, because earlier what I was using, or what I'm sure most of us do, we keep going around the house and then come back to the place where your
Yes.
cell phone is, and then you start looking at it, and then the WhatsApp is the most
Right.
time-consuming thing. You don't realize, but then there's some video, some forward that has come, and then that curiosity, as you rightly said, actually kicks in and says, okay, let me have a look. And then your kids are looking at you, and then they say, Dad, what are you doing? I mean, especially the time when you have to spend that 30 minutes with your kid trying to teach them something. If you have your phone around, trust me, you cannot do it.
Right.
The reason they
Yeah.
spend time on the screen, they learn from us.
Correct,
Yes.
That's a
correct.
fact.
Yeah.
Because that's what they see, and if we have some work, we say, okay, take your iPad. So in a way, we are culprit here. So
Right.
Yeah, yeah. To add to that, I mean, what we have done consciously is no screen at home, meaning there's no television by purpose. So that means you're not watching and you're not letting your kids watch. So they're doing other activities more and more. They don't have any screen time. Yes, they do have at school, and sometimes over the weekend we give it on the laptop. But right now we've curtailed that fully, because we've seen that in the beginning, when my son was like 1 year old, we used to give him iPad, and that was back in 2012, and we then realized it was so addictive, he started manipulating us. So we've completely stopped the screen time altogether. I think that really helps. If especially mobile, no mobiles for kids. If we can have that thumb rules, then you can really get away with all the screen time and the issues around that. And the kids then are not very hyperactive. I've seen my colleagues' kid who are really hyperactive because they are on the phone always. I mean, I may be wrong, but they just don't listen, and there are so many behavioral changes, and of the same age. That's the surprise. It's not like they're 9 years old and I'm talking about 7 years. Same age kids, extremely different. So,
And so coming back to your point on space, that's what mindfulness gives you, is that space for every decision you make in your life. And I know you're thinking, Timur, that sounds exhausting. You want me to think about thinking about every decision that I make through my life. Yes, it is difficult and it is exhausting at first. Okay, the difficulty curve is like this. Okay, it starts out the hardest it's ever gonna be. It starts out. That's why if you say it's too exhausting after 5 minutes, I want you to try to keep doing it. Keep being mindful, because it's gonna get easier as you get better at it. Because go ahead.
What we need to do so kids will started thinking about the goal. Right now we are controlling them.
Yeah.
Whatever we ask them to do, they are doing.
Right.
But what we need to do so they can do their own.
Right. Allow them more responsibilities, and allow them. So the question is, what do we need to do to teach our kids mindfulness?
They can start thinking of their goal.
Oh, about
what
their
they
goals.
need to do.
Oh, okay. Have a meeting. Write down the goal. Okay, and refer back to it sometimes. What are and it could be at any time period. Like, what are our goals for? A great one is until the new year, right? We have all these parties we need to go to. We have all these things. What are the goals? Well, my goal is. Your kids might say, my goal is to get this done at my school, or spend time with these friends. And then order it, right? Order the goals. And then when it's time, say, oh, you're watching TV right now, but here's your goal. You want to spend time with this friend? Oh yeah, let's do it. And then your kids will remember they made that decision, right? And so that's, I think, a great way to do it. So it's exhausting at first to try to have dual trains of thought going about everything at the same time. What you're thinking about, and what you're thinking about what you're thinking about. Okay, you're going to have a parallel trains of thought going your whole life for the rest of your life. But if you do that, then you get that space. And every decision I make, is it going to comport with my goals? And those goals should be to further your spiritual path, right? Is this going to help me? Is this going to help me remove karma from my soul, nirdra, stop karma from attaching my soul, samvar, or learn about Jainism, swadhyay, or something like that. And so you can start implementing these and be like, oh yeah, no, I have this choice to make. I need to do this, or I need to meditate, or I need to read this book. Well, the choice is easy if you have that train of thought, that dual train of thought going in your mind all the time. Well, no, because you look at the big picture, right? We've been talking about looking at the big picture at work, looking at the big picture in as far as your relationships and your time with technology. Well, the biggest picture is the picture of your soul, right? That's the biggest picture, okay? So yes, we talked about the kind of practical benefits so far of mindfulness. Now let's talk about the real goal, is to look at the biggest picture of your life. And how is your spirituality progressing? Now, it's okay to align these interests, okay? You can align the interest of your work and your spirituality. In fact, it's better because then it's easier to do, right? But the overriding interest should be, well, is this going to help my soul? And that mindfulness, that kind of thing will start to radically transform your life, okay? You end up not caring about a lot of things you used to care about because they don't matter. It doesn't matter where you go for dinner, or it doesn't matter, because that's all taking time away from you meditating. I'm telling you, mindfulness is how you see the bars of the prison that you're in. We're all in a prison right now. We're all in a prison, and that war that I was talking about is going on. And you are a prisoner of that war. And there are bars to this prison that you can't see. You're in an invisible prison right now. And mindfulness is not maybe necessarily how you escape the bars, it's just how you see the bars. How you recognize that you're in a prison in the first place. I'll tell you how to make sure, how you can prove to yourself that you're in a prison. Okay? Try to do something. Try to do something. Anything. Okay? Let's say me, right? I'm a wannabe author, right? I feel like I have some inclinations to, write something, right? Well, I make that my mission. I know what I have to do that. I have to write every day. That's the number one rule. You go on a website, how do I do it, be an author? Well, you practice. You write every day, okay? Well, the first day I came home, I had to take out the trash. I had to do the kids. I had to put the kids to bed. I had to spend quality time with wife. I had to make dinner. And I had no time to write at the end of the day, okay? Well, the second day I came home, I said, well, I did all that stuff. So now I got another stuff to do. Well, I had to pay the bills, and then it was time to do this, and then it was time to do this other weekly thing, or it was time to do this monthly thing. And I was like, I know I have to write every day.
Did you say it out loud?
We fill up our time with, I wouldn't say useless, but they're responsibilities, okay? And then I started to see the bars that I had created for myself. Okay, when I picked a goal and I tried to work for it, I kept on running into these bars, right? I kept on running into them. And you will see, if you do not believe me, that you're in a prison right now, try to do something with your life and see what bars you run into. And that is your prison. Questions on that?
I think sometimes we are so afraid of our own selves, we try to run into that bar. We try to create it by saying, I need to do this first before I
you try to distract yourself, right? And they sound reasonable, like, I need to read to my kids, I need to do that. Nobody's going to argue with that if you go out to anybody. I'm telling you, that's a prison. Dimmer, are you telling me why my wife, my chores, my family, my responsibilities are part of the prison? Yes, I am telling you that. These are part of the prisons that you make for yourself. Because your ultimate goal is to spend as much time as you can performing nirdra, right? Because if you're a lion, you can't perform any nirdra. If you're a bacteria, you can't perform any nirdra, right? So what are you doing to give yourself more time to perform nirdra? Nothing. We're filling our time up with things that everybody else says are good and right and the responsible thing to do. But we're kind of boxing ourselves in. We're making ourselves prison. So we talked about all the bad things about mindfulness, okay? And we talked about it's hard at the beginning. You're not going to be able to do anything. There's a war for your attention. We talked all about the bad things, okay? Let's talk about the good things. Okay, let's talk about what is possible when you start practicing mindfulness and start thinking about what you're thinking about and having parallel thoughts about everything. Okay, it's possible to read body language correctly because you can focus on more than one thing at a time. Okay, we all know that people say that communication is 90% nonverbal. Well, what is the other stuff? Well, it's how a body is situated, it's the tone of voice, it's on trying to understand where that person is coming from. I'll tell you just a basic thing. Okay, I'll tell you just a basic trick, okay? When you talk with somebody, look at how old they are and try to imagine what they might have gone through. That will tell you about their values or about their life, and that will allow you to communicate with that person easier. That's the most basic thing in the world, right? Nobody does it, okay? We talk to everybody the same. We don't take into account how old they are, how many gray hairs they have, or what their life situation might be. Nobody does it, okay? Well, if you do mindfulness, you can do that correctly. You can read situations better. You can do all of that correctly. Instead of focusing on just the information that's coming, well, that is information. You can focus on the complete picture of information that's coming to you. If you practice mindfulness, it is possible to feel refreshed and energized after a couple of breaths, no matter what time of day it is and no matter what you have done that day. Okay? If you just, people say, oh, take deep breaths, right? But it is possible to give yourself energy. Why is it possible? Because when you're mindful, you know you're working towards your goal. And have you gotten really into something? You don't, even if you go to work and you're tired or whatever, you're usually tired after work, if you're really into it, you get energized for it, right? You get energized for doing your hobby, right? That's what mindfulness is. If you realize that your actions are comporting with what you want to do, you will be energized. You will be able to do it at midnight after you put the kids to bed, after the kids have come up crying and they need a diaper change and you put them down, and you'll be like, yes, I can write 2 pages today because I'm a wannabe author. Because I like to do it because I know that's in furtherance of my goals. You get that energy, okay? Mindfulness is hacking your brain, okay? So your brain often works against your self-interest because mindfulness is about your long-term interest, and we all know we have to overcome our brain to overcome short-term interest. Your brain is telling you to relax, to take a break, to smell the roses, to go eat something. You know, that was good for when your lifespan was 30, okay? But our lifespan is way over 30, so mindfulness allows you to look at your long-term interest. We talked about emotional hygiene, and here's why you get energized, this one. How many times has this happened to you, if ever? You get that feeling that you are exactly in the right place, doing exactly what you need to be doing. Has anybody ever had that feeling? I've had it like maybe once or twice in my whole life. I don't know, maybe I'm below average. Do you guys often have that feeling like, I am in the right place, this is what I should be doing?
I had that feeling recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How did it feel? You don't have to tell us what it was or whatever.
No,
If you want, you can, but
Sure.
tell me how it felt.
So, sometimes there was a decision that we had to make, and a couple of weeks ago, and made the decision and actually did that. And it was not a conventional thing,
Right.
at least in my nature, to
Right.
do it.
Right.
But I felt, for some reason, I got the strength to do it.
Yeah.
And when I did it, I don't know, more and more I think about it, or by being present, I mean, as soon as I did it, I felt that this is the thing I should have done.
Right.
I'm glad I got the support for it.
Right.
I did it, and it was not just my decision, it was a lot of others influenced that decision as well. But after that, it's even to this moment, I can cherish that decision that I made and I got support for. So that's more on a different front. But I can tell you, I mean, like the tennis, for example. I mean, usually I was avoiding tennis lessons, and I did it last week.
Mm-hmm.
I was tired. At 7:30, I got there, and I was thinking that it's going to be difficult, I won't be able to paying attention. And even after tennis lessons, we played 1 hour
Ah,
just because it was
that's
so
great.
refreshing.
Yeah.
That 1 hour was like, and I forgot about all the tiredness. I mean,
Right.
I woke up as usual because usually I try to go to bed early. I went to bed late, got up early without any problem, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so I can do this. It's not really that you sometimes think that, okay, I need enough rest, I need 8 hours of sleep. You push yourself to do it, but sometimes your mind doesn't allow you to do it. This was, I went to bed, I flat out went to sleep, and
Right.
it works out. So, yeah, I had that moment here recently.
Yeah, I often get the feeling that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now. When I'm at work, I think I'm supposed to be with the kids right now. Or when I'm with the kids, I'm thinking about the work. And I'm often thinking like, my time is not being spent the best way right now. It's like, I don't feel like this is what I should be doing. But when you practice mindfulness, you can feel like that all the time. Because your micro decisions comport with the goals that you have laid out for yourself. And so you can feel like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is exactly what I wanted to do. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, even if it's hard. Okay? Even if my goal is I want to work at Apple. Okay? And you have to do a lot of hard things to do that. You feel like, oh, I can do this. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. I have to do all this work, but I want to do it, and I like to do it, and because I know that that's what I've decided to do, and I'm following my goal. So you can feel like that all the time, even if what you're doing is hard. And it is hard. It is hard to practice your spirituality. Finally, the mindfulness will give you a better understanding of reality. Okay, so once you achieve that level of doing this all the time, when you get that feeling of, you get a feeling of power, right? You get a feeling of control. Okay, it's like when you take, we all want that feeling of control, right? It's like when you're little, when we have kids and the first thing they realize they can control is what food goes into their mouth, okay? And so if you decide to take control of your diet and exercise, let's say, you have a great feeling because you know you can avoid temptation about foods. You know you have the discipline to work out every other day or every day. You get that feeling of control over your life, your physical life. Okay? Now I'm telling you that once you start practicing mindfulness and you become good at it, which is takes a long time, you get that feeling of control, that same feeling of control over your mental life and over the decisions that you make. Because really, your body knows that you're not in control when you're like scrolling through your phone or when something's distracting you. Somehow you know that, well, I'm not really in control right now. When you start getting control over your mental life, you start seeing reality for what it is, and it is the best drug you can ever take. It's better than any drug you can take, this control over your brain and the control over the direction of your thoughts. Okay? When you start realizing that the things in this book are true, okay, you are going to go through this book in a week, okay, because you're going to be like, this is the most important thing I could be doing. This is the exact thing I need to be doing right now. This is the thing that I work so hard for to get the time, is to read this book, okay, and when you realize that, then this book, the things in this book, is better than any drug because it's all amazing, okay? Look, Ashrav, influx of karma. Yeah, I'm supposed to be learning how to control that. Band, how does the karma bind to my soul? Yeah, I'm supposed to be learning how to learn that because the goal of my life is to walk down the spiritual path, you know? Oh, Mahavir, I'm supposed to be learning about what he did because how did he influence his spiritual life, you know? Oh, the 6 fundamental truths. Yes, I need to know these things, you know? That you will go through this book so fast when you realize how important it is, and you will not care about any movies. You'll not care about what's on Netflix. You'll not care what's on television. You'll not care about all the fiction books on your shelf. And even the non-fiction books become fiction books when you start reading this. Okay, so that's the state I'm trying to get you in, is to understand that, is to start to read this book for yourself. because this is the most important thing that you can do, and you will feel good about doing it once you take control of your mind. So questions or comments on that? That was a lot to digest at once.
And one comment, like I when I went to Diksha last year, my uncle took Diksha, and when I went there, I said,
That's
I'm gonna,
great.
Yeah, the whole family, the 5 of them, all took the
Oh, that's
son.
amazing.
Yeah, and one thing I said I'm gonna do it is Samaik in 48 minutes. And I always see the first 10 minutes when I do it, it's hard. It's hard to control what I'm doing. And then I get to a point that my mind is tired now. So I'm kind of following what I'm doing now. It's like, I go into the outer world and then I come back in.
Right.
And then I'm able to focus on, I'm being more mindful for the rest of the time.
Right.
And like you said, after that, it's a freshness, feeling of accomplishment, and you felt like you did something for yourself.
Yeah.
And I just, my mind was obviously active in during this time frame. And I said, I always wondered, why 48 minutes? Why do you have to sit down for 48 minutes and not think about it? And I always thought, look, people don't disturb you. They know you're doing Samyik and things. But I think part of it's this, that it takes a little bit for your mind to focus.
Right.
The first 10, 15 minutes, you're physically there, but mentally away.
Mm-hmm.
And then after a while, you're able to focus. You're able to, and that'd be one of my things to do, is, as you said, is to read this. I've been doing a lot of sutras and things, but now I'll make a habit of start reading this book in that time, because that's what it's supposed to be. We can do that.
Right. And that brings up an important point. How is meditation different from mindfulness? It's very similar. In meditation, you just sit in one place and you notice your thoughts and feelings and your physical sensations. In mindfulness, you do that throughout your whole life. It's kind of like meditating at all times. Okay? You don't have to do it in one place. You can do certain different things. They're slightly different, but I think that the characterization is fine. It's about, it's slightly opposite, but meditation is about being present in the present moment. Okay? Now you might think that kind of observing your metacognition is not being present, but I don't think that I can explain it that well. It kind of converges on when you start thinking about how you're thinking, that makes you more present instead of less present. Okay, so when we talk about being present, we talk about, forget the past. The past doesn't exist, right? The past only is important insofar as it will affect your future, and many times it won't, okay? There's no reason for you to remember anything about your past. And if you spend too much time worrying about the future, you don't worry enough about the present, okay? So meditation is about bringing you into the present, and mindfulness is about directing your present to comport with your goals for the future. Questions or comments?
Just a quick question, but just like anything in life, anything in excess is not good for you. Do you think mindfulness can be excessive at times, and do you think that could be a hindrance? Is there such thing as excessive mindfulness?
Not in day-to-day life, no. I don't think that there would be such a thing as excessive mindfulness, because it doesn't mean that you're paralyzed. It doesn't mean you don't make decisions. It just means you make the decisions that comport with your goals.
The reason I ask is individuals who ruminate a lot tend to, like I'm thinking about the ones who are like, am I achieving my goals? What are my goals? Am I getting to them? Am I missing out? Those who think that way, I'm wondering if that ends up causing more stress in their life.
They're different. Rumination is not mindfulness.
Right.
Okay. Worrying about it. I didn't say to worry about it.
Right.
Okay. We're just talking about the space in when you decide between two things. Choose the decision that comports with your goals. It's not worrying about your future or worrying about, let's say, your financial health or something. It's about making the decisions that get you to where you want to be. But I agree with you. It could be easily mistaken. And if any of you thought I was saying worry about what you're thinking about your whole life, that's not right. It's not supposed to be rumination. Mm-hmm. It's something different. Other questions or comments? thank you so much for coming this week. No class next week, and then keep an eye out on the WhatsApp group, and I will tell you about the week after. Is anybody interested in having a class? We all have something to say. Sometimes we all. I'm not. I'm just a discussion leader. Is anybody interested in taking a class on? That's fine if yes, and that's fine if no too. I just want everybody to have a chance to say what, because we all can bring something. I can certainly learn something from every one of you, many things in fact. So if you have something you feel like is important that maybe we're not getting discussed, or not even that, not even if you don't know, if you want to know about something, then say, yeah, I want to take a class, I want to know about this, and I'm going to do research for the class, and I'm going to present it to the class. So let me know if you know something that you want to share with everybody, or if you want to know something that you want to do research about, and that way you can kind of give yourself the kick in the rear needed to start learning it, then let me know. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much for doing this.